All right. Okay, good evening. My name is George O'Neill. I'm chair of the Thompson Inland Wetlands Commission. I'm calling the July 11th, 2023 meeting of the Inland Wetlands Commission to order at 7 p.m. This meeting is being held electronically using a teleconferencing application called Zoom, so we are operating under the following procedures. The session is being recorded both for audio and visual content, and is under the control of a Zoom host. And this evening, that's Amy. To ensure sound quality, the default rule for this meeting is that everyone will remain on mute. Commissioners and staff will generally remain on mute except when speaking or voting, and will generally be keeping video of themselves on throughout the meeting. Applicants and members of the public should feel free to leave their video on or off. However, they will be asked to turn on the video when speaking. If video is not available for you, you'll not be precluded from speaking at the appropriate time and may listen to the meeting. During this meeting, everyone is asked to state their name each and every time they speak. Please use the quote, raise your hand feature to let me and the host know if you have raised your hand to speak. Members of the public may only speak during the portion of the agenda established for citizens' comments on agenda items. And there are two opportunities, one at the beginning of the meeting and one toward the end. For individuals representing applicants, permittees, and violators listed in the agenda and their representatives, if you're speaking at this meeting and have a document to submit to the commission, which was not distributed in advance of the meeting with the rest of the materials, please indicate that you wish to submit the document. You will need to hold it up to the camera so that the commission and/or members of the public may view it. In addition, you will be required to email an electronic version of the document in PDF format to Marla at wetlands@thompsonct.org. You can also find her email on the website. She will include it in the permanent records of the commission. If a member of the public tries to communicate outside the citizens' comments on agenda items portion of the meeting, or if any person creates an audio or visual disruption, they may be manually ejected by the Zoom host from the meeting upon my request. It's now to have a roll call. Commissioner Obert?
Present.
Commissioner Morano?
Present.
Commissioner Chapin?
Present.
Chair George O'Neill, present. I see we have Gloria and Marla, our wetlands agent. So let's start. The next item is going to be to appointment of alternates, which there are none. Action on minutes of the previous minutes. That would be the minutes of June 13th, 2023. Any modifications or changes?
I think I saw one typo. I would like to clarify. On page 3 of 6, the first item is WAA 23012. And at the end of that first line, it says that the construction will be 22 by 4 foot, but that the garage is going to be 20 by 24 feet. And I'm wondering if somebody missed 2. Is that really going to be a 4 foot wide? So at any rate, that's the only thing that I saw. It's everything else looked fine.
Perhaps I can answer that for Charlie. Marla Butt speaking. The application showed the house addition at a different location than the attachment of the garage. So it is correct.
All right. Charlie, you're great. You should be a proofreader because every time I look at this, I just don't pick up on some of these items. Good job. Any other items or any changes, corrections? Okay, hearing none. Do we have a vote to accept the minutes as posted? I see Commissioner Ober raising his hand. It's a motion to, don't forget to the mute. Do I have a second?
Do we need to vote on this?
I think we don't. Do we? Don't
That's
we
correct.
normally?
You don't have to vote. You just
Okay.
have to accept them as read.
All right.
With no vote.
Okay, then we'll, at hearing no objections, then we'll accept them as read. And moving on to the next item. I'm going to scroll. I've got it on the comments, citizens' comments on agenda items. So raise your hand. This is the first of 2 opportunities to speak on items on the agenda. All right, hearing none, I'm going to move on to the next item, which is agenda item E, old applications, WAA 23001, NAUSF 274 Riverside Drive, Assessors Map 87, Block 95, Lot 39, construct a 13-foot by 50-foot concrete pad for a refrigeration freezer unit. Stamped received at 1/19/23, revised on 2/1/2023 to include construction of 2 second-floor decks, a 50-foot by 13-foot over proposed concrete slab, and an 18-foot by 36-foot along entire width of the south side of the building. Approval pending. Any updates on this, Marla?
Yes, there is. So if you go to page 11 of the Zoom documents, you'll see what the original application was, where he wanted to put a concrete pad in the back of the building facing towards the river. And then he wanted to put a deck on the south side of the building. Subsequent to that, he decided that he wanted to put a deck over the proposed concrete pad. The concrete pad was intended to house refrigeration units that can be outside. And so he has identified on sheet 12 of the Zoom documents, he has submitted a signed and sealed plan by an engineer showing, this was the problem with the application, is the building office needed signed and sealed plans because these decks are on a second floor, and because he did not get the dispensary, he didn't win the lottery, so he's changing his plans, and he's going to have something more like an arcade. He'll have food, and on the upstairs, he wants to be able to have people to be able to sit out on the deck and walk along the deck. So he's extended the deck around the building over the refrigeration units. In this way, he only needs to have one set of stairs going down. So now I've communicated with Terry Bellman, the building inspector, to make sure that he had everything that he needed for the deck construction. And he said he did, and he's just holding off on the building permit until I issue the wetlands agent approval, which would most likely be tomorrow. If you go back to page 11, you will note that the FEMA, the existing 100-year flood zone, the FEMA flood zone, is right at the edge of his deck on the southeast corner. That's why it was critical to know exactly what he was going to have. He is not in the 100-year floodplain. Of course, we've heard about all the flooding that's gone on up in Vermont. So the concern is to make sure that whatever he has there will not be in the flood zone or the 100-year floodplain. So this is ready for approval, and it'll probably happen tomorrow unless you guys have any objections.
Commissioners, any comments or objections to the modification to include the deck, the upper level, I guess it's observation for the property?
My only question, we will receive an as-built or that goes to the town, to the land record?
The answer to your question, Charlie, is no, unless you want it as a special condition of the permit or the approval. I can put a requirement that he supply an as-built drawing after it's built, but that's usually the building inspector's responsibility, not the wetlands office.
Okay, fine. No, it looks like they answered the questions.
Okay, any other comments or questions? And this is an agent approval, so unless there's objections, then we can move on to the next item.
Correct.
Okay, hearing none. You're good to go on that one. Next agenda item, I'm putting it up on the screen here. It's item new applications, IWA 23010, Thompson Business Park LLC, 0 and 0 Reardon Road, Assessor's Map 65, Block 100, Lot 40 and 40G. Self-storage facilities with grading and stormwater discharges in 100-foot upland review area, stamped received 5/2/23 to be statutorily received on 5/9/23. This is a property that some of us walked.
That is correct. So I received the approval, the NDDH approval, Northeast District Department of Health's approval for the septic system. It was dated July 6, 2023, approving the design. At this meeting, at this point in time, Greg Glod is representing the applicant, as Mr. Norm Tybo could not make it tonight. And you will also see the plans are located in the Zoom drawings. These are the same plans that were offered as a last time. I don't think these were the ones that were on the Zoom documents because I think they came too late. 6/26 is the date where he ended up changing. You recall in the meeting last time, there was under the sequence of construction, there was an error, and that's on Zoom document page 20, where he cited the town of Plainfield and
Right.
not the town of Thompson. So that's been changed. Also, at the last meeting, there was a discussion of what kind of reporting for erosion and sediment control would be done. This was something that the Conservation Commission was concerned about, and given the size of the site, I would too. So Norm submitted a draft of a type of report that could be used, an inspection report that could be used during the course of the construction of the project. And that's shown up on Zoom documents 22 through, that would be 28. This is an actual site that he had. And so this is just a sample. And I sent him an email back today that said that I wanted it tailored more to what the actual discharge locations were for this particular site, and that I wanted initiation, when the initiation of each erosion and sediment control was going to be installed, or when it was at least completed. So we need to talk about the language a little bit. So because of that, given what the commission had said last month, I realized that we're at the end of the timeline for rendering an approval or disapproval unless the applicant grants an extension. So I'm suggesting that, given I don't see any other outstanding issues, that there should be at least one special condition, and that I've given you the text on page 29 of the Zoom documents, and it reads, within 90 days of the issuance of this permit and prior to the start of construction, the permittee shall submit to the Inland Wetlands Commission for its review and written approval a stormwater inspection report for use during construction of the self-storage facilities, and no earth moving work is authorized until such stormwater inspection report form is approved by the commission. That I think is an appropriate condition for any approval if the commission decides to grant an approval at this time. The only other condition that I could see that might be of interest to the commission, and I didn't write it up, was the Conservation Commission usually asks that medallions be stating where the open space easement is, be established. They initially said that they wanted it at the completion of construction. And I suggested that they might want to have that installed at the start of construction. They haven't told me which is their preference. But if you feel that it's important that those medallions, which identify where the line is for the conservation easement, that could be required as another condition of any approval that the commission grants. But without a doubt, the first condition regarding the reporting form, inspection reporting form, I can work with the engineer to come up with a report that's acceptable to bring it to your attention at a later time. But I didn't want it open-ended, so I thought 90 days was sufficient time, and perhaps Mr. Glad can respond to that suggestion.
Great. Thank you, Marla, for the summary. And Mr. Glad, would you like to address the commission? Please state your name and bona fides for us, please.
Sure, I can do that. Good evening. For the record, my name is Greg Glaude. I'm a licensed land surveyor and business partner at Killingly Engineering Associates, with a place of business at 114 Westcott Road in Danielson, Connecticut. And I had gone over a lot of these same issues that Marla just brought up. I had discussed them with Norman Tebow before the meeting this evening. Yeah, we agree. I think that Marla and Norman can easily come up with a format that would work for the inspection form, something that will make her happy. And I think it should be done. They can agree on a timing as to how often those inspections are done. I think that they can easily come up. He just provided that one as a sample, just to kind of show you what we were doing on a golf course project that was down in Franklin, Connecticut, where it was a large area. This is a large area that's going to be open. It is 2 phases that they're doing here. The first phase is the 2 buildings up front. The second phase will be the 5 buildings in the back. I also just heard Marla mention putting up, installing discs for the conservation easement that has already been granted to the town of Thompson. I believe we have no problem with putting those up, and I think they should be put up prior to construction. That makes the most sense in our, in my mind. I don't have a problem with that as well. And again, I think moving forward with an approval and a condition that form is agreed upon by Marla and Norman, and then they can come back to the commission to review it with you guys. I'm good. I'm glad. I'm happy with that, and I think Norman would be too. So if there's any specific questions, I'll be glad to address them.
Thank you, Mr. Glad. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Glad?
Question that I
Commissioner Obert?
suppose, yeah, Charlie Obert here. I suppose either this witness or Marla can answer it, but the real issue on this stormwater reporting thing is that right now we think that there should be, it's a logical and intelligent item of information that you're already collecting, but the idea of sharing it with us is kind of novel. Am I correct with that? Because I don't have any problems with the rest of this.
So Charlie, perhaps I'll answer that. When you were asking about supplying that, there is a condition, you just reminded me that there's a second condition to this one that says that these must be, or onto this special condition, that these reports shall be made as authorized and shall be made available to the commission on request. So that needs to be added to the special condition, or as a separate condition.
Well, I guess that, I recall we did discuss this during our last meeting. Mr. Glad, is that something that your group could accept? Your representatives or your client?
Yes, yep, that is acceptable.
Yeah, great. So no mas on this. I guess we're good on any other questions, Commissioner Chapin or Commissioner Morano?
No questions.
All right. So
Then
yes, Commissioner Obert.
to be clear, then this is going to be included into, if I say now, I make a recommendation that we approve IWA 23010 with the caveat that the request for reporting of stormwater inspection reports be resolved as was just indicated it would be.
Right. As well as and if you could complete your motion by adding
Everything,
the discs, then we'll be one step forward.
please repeat that if it's something that I need to.
No, I was going to say you recommended the suggestion as outlined, but in the addition of the conservation easement discs as well as the reporting provision, as we discussed.
Which is what we just verbally
Right.
agreed to, and I'm just
Right.
saying, I don't want to try to remember every.
I get it.
But
So is
that's
that your
but
motion?
I did allude to the fact that what we just agreed to
Yeah.
is the only condition, and everything else, as I read this application, looks like it's ready to go.
Okay. So is that your motion?
Yes.
So do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and second to approve this application with the as written, as well as the 2 additional components regarding the conservation discs and the reporting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All
Aye.
those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the application is approved with those caveats to be memorialized. Marla, could you incorporate those elements into the approval?
Yes, so I will draft a permit that will have 3 special conditions. The first being the one that's listed on Zoom document, page number 29. A second special condition will require that those reports will be made available upon request of the commission. And the third one would be that the open space markers will be installed prior to the initiation of construction.
Great.
Correct.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Glad, for your
Thank you,
commentary.
everybody, for your time tonight.
Right. Moving on to the next item. We have new applications, IWA 23014, Cheryl J. Popiak, 0 Thompson Road, Assessors Map 116, Block 24, Lot 6B. Construct new single-family home, well and septic system with associated grading in wetland and upland review area, stamped received on 6/28/23, to be statutorily received on 7/11/23, which is today. All right, where do we have some additional information about this, Marla?
Well, this is the first that you're seeing it. So it starts on page 31 of the Zoom documents, the application form, and continues to, she has authorized David Held to represent her. That's on page 35. And part of the application contained the FEMA firm map. It doesn't identify where her property is, but it's at the south end of the little pond. And you can see on page 37 of the Zoom documents, outlined in blue is the location of this property. And then they've got the reporting form. And then there was a little bit of back and forth regarding, about with their soil scientist, who is Scott Stevens. He is a certified soil scientist. And on page 40, is his delineation that was to go on to the plans. And this is where I, in trying to organize these pages, I somehow lost the actual drawings. Now I've sent them to you independently via email, and I can try to screen share. And I would like to do that, but I've never screen shared before because I didn't have adequate bandwidth.
That's okay,
So
no worries. You just go in there and hit the
All right.
screen share button.
it says you cannot screen share while other participants are sharing.
Oh, goodness, I'm sharing, sorry. The first thing I have to do is release. There you go. Now you should share.
Okay, so, and it says choose what to share. And I guess it's post attendees Zoom. Just click share and see what I get. No, I have to select one. Zoom meeting on the web. Okay. Nope, it's not letting me
there.
do it. I don't know, it's asking me for a passcode and,
Okay, so why don't we do this? Well, I have it.
No, Marla, you're just choosing the wrong option in your windows.
okay,
You gotta
so,
choose the document that you want. So stop the share.
okay, wait a
Can't we
minute.
just look at what,
Wait a minute, I don't want to lose you, so,
you send it to everybody. We can just look at that if you like.
well, actually, I thought I had it up here. Let's see if it's up. Should be.
Is that the
here.
SSD Rev 61923?
Are you
doc-
seeing this?
No, but I have it also.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Okay, let me do that. I can pull it up if you can't. How about relinquish the share?
Okay, I just did that.
Okay,
All right, let's try it again. Hold on here. Okay, I have it in 2.3 version, screen number 2. Let's try that. Share. All right, do you see the exhibit?
yes.
All right, there you go.
So
Good try. Maybe make it larger.
David Held is here. I don't know if he could screen share because we found that using the engineer screen sharing can actually make it easier because he could point to where he's just talking about. But David Held, you're,
Mr. Held, do you want to
Yes,
identify
I'm
yourself?
here.
And
Yes, David Held, professional engineer, land surveyor with Provost and Rivero. If you'd like me to share my screen, I've got it up. I can do that. It's up to you. If you want either that, or you can just zoom in a little bit there and we can
more?
discuss it
Okay,
here.
let's zoom in more here.
relatively simple.
How much more do you want?
I think that'll probably work.
Okay.
So this is an existing lot of record on Little Pond. It's accessed from a shared driveway off of Route 193 directly across from the Wilsonville Road and Route 193 intersection. Travel down about 1,000 feet along the driveway, and you get to this existing lot of record. It's currently undeveloped. It's been used for camping, passive recreation over the years. Ms. Popiak purchased the property approximately 3 years ago, and that's what she's been doing with it. She would like to develop it with a small 2-bedroom house. You can see the dimensions there. It's 2 bedrooms, 24 by 26 feet, so pretty minimal size. We've designed a geomatrix GST septic system for it. It has been approved by the Northeast District Department of Health. I believe they actually just issued that approval letter this morning, and that was emailed to Marla
Mhm.
as well. And as part of that septic system design process, we actually went through an entire wet season of groundwater elevation monitoring, which was completed this spring. So we're very confident with that design and the fact that it's going to function properly. You'll notice where the septic tank is, and just to the west of that, there's this small wetlands pocket. That's a small depression where there used to be a shed, which has been removed from the property. And Mr. Stevens did, yes. Yep, so Mr. Stevens delineated that small depression as wetland soils. Our intention is to fill that in to provide for grading off of the end of the septic system and development envelope for the house. And then to the southeast of the house, you'll see where the proposed well is. We've got about 810 square feet of wetland disturbance there to provide for the well installation, and also a small portion for a functional driveway turnaround for the vehicle. So all told, we've got about 870 square feet of wetland disturbance. And other than that, we've got work obviously in the upland review area. You can see we've provided a 25-foot offset line from the wetlands around Little Pond. It does not incorporate that little pocket wetland that we're filling in next to the septic tank, but we've played with the location of the house and the septic system as best we can to minimize the disturbance within that 25-foot offset envelope, and that's what you see in front of you. I will point out that there's no way we can make a septic system any smaller than this. According to the current public health code, even if we did a 1-bedroom house, the code requires you to design a septic system for 2 bedrooms. And we've maximized the amount of select septic fill that we can utilize to reduce the length of our system to the extent that we can. So what you see there is really the most efficient design that we can come up with for this site to make it developable for some sort of end use. At the request of Marla, because we do have direct wetland disturbance, and because this is so close to Little Pond, which is an NDDB mapped area of concern, we have submitted a screening application to DEEP to determine hopefully what the particular species of concern are there. We don't have a response back from them yet. You'll also notice on there that line type, which is the little dots, which cuts through the very northeasterly corner of the house. That is what was previously mapped as the 100-year flood zone. Marla shared with me the updated FEMA maps, and I don't know if they're official yet. If it's not, I believe it's coming up in the next couple of weeks. But
Is that it? Or
with
this one
the new,
one?
No,
the one
No.
that you just crossed through, that's those little round dots. It goes sort of northeast,
Oh, here,
excuse me, northwest, southeast.
northwest, oh, over here. It's this one?
it's like a chain of pearls.
Oh,
Looks
okay,
like a-
this one here, I'm sorry. East,
Yeah,
west,
yeah, yep,
northeast, there you go, okay, fine.
yep. So that's the previously demarcated A flood zone. It's a non-elevated flood zone, so you can see from the contours that we've shown there that it doesn't actually have any semblance in reality anyway, because it's crossing almost 4 or 5 feet of elevation. But the new FEMA mapping, which is still preliminary, would actually show that I think all of this development envelope is outside of the 100-year flood zone. And I think that would be consistent with the groundwater monitoring that we did for the septic system as well as the observations in the test pits. So this is an application for a commission approval rather than agent approval because we do have some direct wetland impacts. So if there are any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to address them at this point.
George, I have a request to make for modification of this plan.
What is your request, Marla?
He's showing the existing FEMA floodplain, 100-year floodplain. And I was wondering if he could draft onto this drawing the proposed firm map 100-year floodplain that's to go into effect on September 7th, 2023. It will be final on that date, but it might be of value to the commission to have that on the drawing, because one of the other changes in the FEMA requirements is that you have to provide compensation storage in the future. Once that goes into effect, you don't have that requirement yet. So where the current 100-year floodplain is, there's no requirement to provide compensation storage. And the fact that FEMA has taking it out of the 100-year floodplain implies that it probably wouldn't have needed it anyways. So I would like to see that added on. And
Yeah, we
the
can
other,
certainly do that.
yeah, the other question that I have is the hard dashed line, which I'm assuming is your silt fence delineation that goes
Correct.
around the site. Is that also the
This-
limit of disturbance?
Yeah, the limit of disturbance in that would be one and the same. Yes.
Okay. So you have
On the westerly side, we've also showed clearing limits, but there's no need for silt fence because it's going up gradient.
correct. So there are actually two areas to be filled of wetlands. You have wetlands flags 20 through 22, that little depression near the septic tank. And then you have another area to the south where the turnaround for the driveway is. I believe wetlands flag number 17 shows up. So there's filling that occurs there too. What is the maximum depth of fill that you're anticipating in the wetlands for that turnaround? You don't show any elevation changes really in the wetlands. So, and I assume these are 2-foot contours?
Those are actually 1-foot contours.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Yeah, so that proposed contour that wraps right around the turnaround there, that would be a 481 contour. And the
Okay.
existing grade there is 480. So, at the wetland flag itself, maybe 15 inches of fill.
So then my next question is will you need to remove unsuitable material to create the parking area in the fill in the wetland? As to the type of wetland soils, do you know if they're deep organic or are they shallow organic soils?
They're actually very shallow organic, and then they're underlain by sand and gravel. So all we would have to do would be scrape off maybe 6 to 8 inches of topsoil and then just put the processed gravel on top of that for the driveway.
Okay. Those are all my questions for now.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Held or Marla regarding this? This is we just accepted the application this evening, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Just
I-
accepted it.
I don't have the plan in front of me, but is there a sequence of construction on these drawings? What's going to happen first? What's going to happen next? What's going to happen?
It's a relatively generic one that would apply to any residential development, but if you want something more specific, we can certainly do that.
Yes, I would like us, because it's in a critical area, I think it should have a sequence of construction. So that should be added to the second sheet.
Charlie over here. Marla, I was surprised that there was another empty lot around that pond, but did we look at this before, or did we look at one at the infeed side about a year and a half ago?
I don't think we've seen this one.
I don't think you've seen this one, actually. This one has come before the wetlands office, not before you, but before me, before Ms. Popiak acquired it. There were a number of people that were interested in it. And there was a lot of concerns because it's a very small lot and it's very tight and it's difficult to develop any kind of site plan for it.
Mr. Held's right. He said they shoehorned it in, and that's, so we're just receiving it now. Do we do a site walk?
Can if you wish, or I can take you out there individually.
I'd kind of like to see it, but I don't have, if nobody else needs to see it, then when you're going to be in the office, you can let me know.
Mhm.
I'm not sure of my availability, so maybe I'll reach out to you individually, Marla, and go, we could perhaps set something up.
Mhm. Okay.
Great.
Thank
Commissioners, any other comments before we move on? Okay, hearing none, thank you, Mr. Held and Ms. Popiak for your time and summary.
Yep.
Let's move on to the next item here. Where was I? I think this is the alternate location here. Let me just. Somehow I've got to get rid of this thing. Oh, I see what I've done. Can't seem to get rid of my. Oh, escape. I'm having technical difficulties now. Oh, there we are. Goodness. Done. All right, get rid of that. This is the presentation. Let me just go back here. I found my bearings. Too many screens to look at.
Page 41 of the Zoom documents.
You got it. Here we go. 41. All right. Thank you. So new applications. We have WAA 23015. Michael Vandy, 10 Green Lane, Assessors Map 143, Block 17, Lot 232. Demolish existing house and construct new single-family home in 100-foot upland review area. Stamped received on 6/27/23 under review. All right.
So
Here's
if this is a wetlands agent approval application, so no action is required by you at this time. On page 42 gives you a location of this lot. Green Lane is a private road. And if you scroll down to page 47, you can see that the most of the property is outside of the 100-year flood zone. And if you go to page 48, what Mr. Vandy is proposing to do is to demolish an existing cottage and to build on the same footprint a new cottage. And so one of the two, there are two things that I'm waiting on. One is because this is has an NDDB notification for aquatic reservoir. Daniel Blanchette has been asking for DEP to give a review. In the past, all of our NDDB reviews for aquatic reservoir have been in water species. They have not been on the slope. So basically, you're looking at erosion and sediment controls. So one of the things that I wanted to have on this plan, which I don't yet have, is the limit of disturbance, because you'll notice that the slope going down to the lake is pretty steep. This house, this cottage, sits on a bluff and looks down over the reservoir. So one of the things that I'm going to be asking for modification of the site plan is what the extent of land disturbance is. In addition, I don't have the NDDH approval yet in the file, so I will be waiting for that. Other than those two issues, I don't see a problem with this. It's a fairly sizable lot. And the road is pretty stable. I'm not too concerned. I just want to make sure that there's not going to be much disturbance on that embankment. We had another application just up the road on Green Lane, a little farther to the north, which had a lot of concerns with bank stabilization. So I want to make sure we don't have that here. And that's it. You don't need to take any action.
All right.
Any
Thank you for
questions?
the questions, commissioners. All right, hearing none, let's move on to the next application. We have any received after the agenda was published?
No, none.
No permit extensions,
Nope, none.
violations of pending enforcement actions. Notice of permit violation VIOL 21036, permit IWA 20022, Mark Bear, 1227 Thompson Road, Assessors Map 116, Block 24, Lot 10. Grades not as authorized in modified plan approved by Commission on February 9th, 2021. Status.
There's been no change. The site work has not been completed. I don't think the house has been finished. Of course, the building inspector has been asked not to issue a certificate of occupancy until the commission receives an acceptable as-built drawing and approves that as-built drawing. So that is still on the same condition as it was last month.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Marla on this, commissioners? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. Notice of violation VIOL 23013. Sudik Wojek 1574 Riverside Drive, Assessors Map 55, Block 65, Lot 14. Grading work exceeded scope of work authorized by permit IWA 21028, issued 5/22/23. Status.
I did contact the Dudley Wetlands office and left a message. I got a voice message back. They have asked me to send them an email. They have a consultant who is their wetlands agent. So I need to collect all the information that I have regarding the work that would be of interest to them in Dudley, because some of the work, in order to make the drainage system work, actually has to be coordinated with authorizations in Dudley.
Right.
So I still have to pull together that information. I talked to Daniel Blanchette the other day, and he advised me that he's been very busy and hasn't had a chance to get out there to do the survey work that they had wanted to do. So it's not going away, but they're still working towards that end. In the meantime, since the meeting from last month, I have gone out and checked the site, and it is the permitted site, which is the lower half of that property. And there aren't any problems out there at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for wetlands agent? Okay, hearing none, moving on to the next item. All right, amended draft. This is other business, amended draft of Thompson flood damage prevention ordinance. And there was quite a bit of correspondence. I know that it was sent around to the commissioners on this.
Yeah, so at the last, Marla Butt speaking, at the last meeting, you asked a number of questions, which were in, if you go to page 54 of the Zoom documents, the questions that you had asked me are listed 1 through 4. And Diane responded quite quickly to those first questions, and those are on page 55 and 56. So you had asked, what was the total area in square miles located in the new special flood hazard area for Thompson being 48.7 square miles. She said FEMA estimates that 5.4 square miles comprise the 100-year floodplain. That's the AE and the A zones, which is 11% of Thompson's total area in square miles. The 500-year floodplain is 0.4 square miles or 0.82%. The 500-year floodplain is not a regulated area unless there is a state-funded project that is located, which requires state permits. Then you asked, can FEMA provide the number of existing flood insurance accounts for structures in the special flood hazard areas? And if yes, how many are there? And she wrote back, as of May 2nd, 2023, there are 4 NFIP flood insurance policies in Thompson. They are all residential properties, single family or 2 family. 1 is in the 100-year floodplain. That's an A or an AE zone. 3 are outside of the 100-year floodplain. That is a B, C, and X zone. Said often property owners that are on the edge of the 100-year floodplain who have experienced flooding in the past will buy a policy. These 4 policies pay $3,490 in premiums with
1
with
million.
1,092,000 insurance in force. Since 1978, there have been 9 closed paid flood losses in Thompson totaling $236,000 and 808. She said, be advised that flood insurance is required as a condition of a mortgage and other home loan if the structure is located in the floodplain. If there is no loan, property owners often cancel the insurance. The low policy count does not represent the number of structures that are located in the floodplain and should not be and should be maintaining insurance. Also, your current mapping is very old and does not show structures. The new maps that become effective in September will have aerial photography. The bank may have been making errors in all these years by not requiring insurance. You may see policy count jump up a bit in the fall as the banks go over the portfolios again, with the new mapping coming in and out, catching any old errors where they did not think the structure was in the floodplain. They also will catch any new structures mapped into the floodplain. And then she provides a story map tool from FEMA that may help compare the existing to the pros, and there's a link there. She said FEMA estimates that there are approximately 140 structures in the 100-year floodplain on the current maps. Be advised that this can include accessory structures such as sheds and garages. Your GIS may give more accurate numbers. FEMA estimates on the proposed maps effective date of September 7th, 2003, there will be 71 structures in the 100-year floodplain. This represents a net loss of 69 structures. The third question you asked was, can FEMA provide the number of structures that are currently insured through FEMA? And if yes, can FEMA provide a listing of those structures and the associated addresses? 4 flood insurance policies currently as of May 2nd, 2023. See the question 2 above. She said, I cannot provide the exact addresses. If Thompson would like to get a list of addresses, they will have to sign an information sharing access agreement with FEMA. I can provide you with a contact at the FEMA Boston office to initiate this request. The last question was, how can Thompson obtain digital shape files? As Thompson would like to have applied geographics, use those shape files to create FEMA special flood hazard area layer for inclusion in the town's GIS application known as MapGeo. And she writes, the geospatial data is available on FEMA's Map Service Center. And she gives the website and she tells them how to get to it. And she shows how you can get all that information. She then subsequently, on Monday, responded to, let's see, was it Monday? I think it looks like it was Sunday, to my other questions about the ordinance itself. And that's a subject of a different matter. I would like to go back and just say that I have been in touch with Paul Hopkins, the town's assessor, and I have downloaded all of the electronic versions of the maps, but the digital layer, he contacted Applied Geographics, and Applied Geographics replied to him in writing, a copy to me, that said that they are willing to provide that layer to the town at no charge, because it is it's like a statewide layer. And they're going to be doing it for their other towns. So it looks like you'll have on MapGeo the actual new floodplain mapping, not the old. And he is going to be going through and reevaluating properties based upon where once the new maps go into effect. So I will be providing him with the electronic copies of the maps that I've downloaded for his use. I've also included on the Commission's webpage under resources and advice, information on how to look at the maps so the public can look at these in advance of them becoming effective. And then finally, on the language of the ordinance itself, there's had some back and forth. Diane Ivkovic, I asked a lot of questions. I spent a lot of time, probably about 10 hours, doing a detailed review of it, and asked her a number of questions about it, and she gave a response. And tomorrow I'm meeting with Tira to talk about resolving the changes. For example, there's two changes that have to be made to the ordinance. One of them talked about the fee. The fee was $20 listed in the old ordinance, and the new ordinance is going to have to identify how that fee is established, and it would be done through the Code of Ordinances allows for the selectmen to establish fees for various things, and they would establish the fee. Second thing that is requested to be changed, which is changing out the Conservation Commission as the appeal agency for any decisions of the building inspector, because the building inspector is the primary administrator of this of the FEMA requirements of the ordinance. And that's why it was brought to you last month, because you need to decide tonight whether you're willing to be the appeal agency for the FEMA mapping, now that you know what the scope of the universe is. Finally, the last thing that I had concerns about is dealt with subdivisions. There's a section in the ordinance that talked about subdivisions and assigned the building inspector certain responsibilities that he had no responsibilities over. And Tira has agreed that that should be changed to the Planning and Zoning Commission when it deals with providing information, requiring information on subdivision applications. So tomorrow, hopefully, when I sit down with Tira, we'll come up with a final language that can be presented to the Board of Selectmen, that can then go to a town meeting and be approved prior to September 7th of this year. So right now, the responsibility that you have is to decide whether you want to be the appeal agency or not.
Great. Thank you for all that work. I was sort of, if I could just comment as chairman, I was sort of surprised that there are only 4 policies in force. Now, it doesn't mean historically, since 1978, there weren't more policies in force. And at one time, perhaps there were a lot of policies in force, and which I thought was interesting, notwithstanding the fact that there are 140 structures, according to Ms. Ivkovic, that are currently in the 100-year zone AE, the areas in the town. So I thought that was interesting. And if you took the current premiums as being, indicative of the past, and although they aren't, because the NFIP has increased their premiums year over time, even at that, if you took these as current, which would be overstating it, we've collected about 150,000 in premium, yet paid out over 230,000 in losses over that period of time, which I think is somewhat striking. It seems like the buyers of insurance are ahead on that one, which again, FEMA, the National Flood Insurance Program, is a subsidized program, or had been. It's being moved to an actuarially sound program now. But and also, given there's a fairly modest number of structures, I mean, in the whole town, given that we have 10,000, over 10,000 people, 9,500 people, 9,300 people. And the number of households would be what, 3,000 maybe. That only 140 structures, and then she also comments that might also include outbuildings and sheds and things like that. So the real number of structures is probably less than 140, perhaps 100. And they're in the flood zone. And as far as lenders are concerned, I'm not sure it's accurate to say that, certainly some lenders require flood insurance. The federally insured loans are required by statute under the Flood Insurance Act of 1968, as amended 72, to be federally insured if they're in the special flood hazard area zones AE and AV rather. And that, so my guess is that either they have no mortgages, because banks, of course, are obligated to map these structures. And they typically, if they're federally guaranteed, the federal lenders normally require that you have what they call life of loan map monitoring for the flood zone. So if it changes or it drops out, you're on top of it. But so it seems like it's a very modest burden for the Inland Wetlands Commission. So my impression would be that as appeal, it would make sense for the commission to, in fact, be the appeal platform. But those are my impressions. But I offer, be interested to know what other commissioners have thoughts on this.
I have a question.
Fran,
In the
Commissioner Morano?
letter, yes, Fran Morano. In the letter, it said that the number of policies didn't necessarily reflect the amount of houses in the floodplain, because if the house was paid off, people could elect not to have one.
Mhm.
Is that
Right.
how in fact it is? If your house is in a floodplain, it's not mandatory to have one?
That's a yeah, that's absolutely correct. I mean, that's true. Here she said there are 140 structures in the 100-year floodplain, though, to clarify that, right?
But
But
if they had a problem, would the town have any liability, or would it be the burden
No.
of the owner?
again, before 1968, when the federal government passed the National Flood Insurance Program, there wasn't any. If you had flood insurance, you had to buy it privately. So there was, because of the shortage of the limited availability, and you can look to the congressional record on this because it's all in the enabling legislation. They passed this so in order to help people that were in flood zones or sensitive areas to have coverage that was, affordable, because it's very expensive. And so to answer your question, the only people that have to do it is if they want to buy it, one, and number two, if it's a federally guaranteed loan, they have to have it. Number three would be if their lender says they have to have it. If they have a mortgage, they would have, and the lender says, we're going to require it. Because you have to step back and look at it. If I'm a lender and all my other counterparts are lending, and we look at the flood zone and everyone requires it but me as one lender, and if there's a flood, that's going to look pretty bad if you're a banker and you didn't have flood insurance requirement.
No, I understand that. My question, supposing their home is paid off,
Right. They don't have to do it. There's no mortgage. The mortgage is
Okay.
what drives it.
and
town-
what if they suffer a loss? That's on them?
Yeah.
Doesn't come back on the town.
Well, I don't know how, it's not a town program.
Okay.
But
I'm just
some,
checking.
I guess that's perhaps a legal question. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know how the town would get dragged into it, but if I don't buy insurance, my house burns down.
All right. I just wanted
Commissioner Obert.
Yeah, Charlie over here. I would say only if the town was culpable in the loss. If something that the town did led to the loss,
Yeah.
then a person who was not insured might have some grounds. The questions that I have twofold. What are the actual responsibilities? If somebody has an appeal that says that they're really not in the floodplain, we look at the map.
Good question. Yeah.
And the other is, logically, the more valuable properties have some sort of a mortgage or some sort of a sense of the value and replacement costs. So for the number of houses that are insured, says 4 policies. For the number of properties that could be insured if we were strict about it, or if they had a mortgage, that's only like 100 and something. That's a small percentage of the town, and we do need to take it seriously, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be onerous. And I do think there's a logic and a synergy to us doing this.
It's
Commissioner
Commissioner Chapin. I
Yes.
would like to understand exactly what our role would be, because at this moment, I am leaning toward no, it shouldn't be our responsibility. But if somebody could clarify what exactly our role would be in this, then perhaps my opinion would be swayed.
It's a great question for Marla.
Okay, so I'm actually gonna pull up the section that deals with of the ordinance. You kind of have to look at the ordinance, what the ordinance is saying. Now, remember, this isn't just gonna be necessarily people appealing existing homes. This could be somebody who wants to build a home in the floodplain and there's a disagreement about certain provisions, breakaway walls, what the elevation is of the base flood. So when you're talking about the appeal process, they call it a variance procedure. So what it says is The Inland Wetlands, this is how it would read. The Inland Wetlands Commission shall hear and decide appeals when it is alleged that there is an error in any requirement, decision, or determination made by the building official in the enforcement or administration of this ordinance. So all those details that talk about breakaway walls and all this other stuff, if somebody wants to appeal that, that would come to the commission. The commission would have to know what the ordinance says to know, and I would expect that anybody filing an appeal has to state their reasons for the appeal. It says any person aggrieved by the decision of the Inland Wetlands Commission or any person owning land which abuts or is within the radius of 100 feet of the land in question may appeal within 15 days of such decision to Superior Court as provided in section 8-8 of the Connecticut General Statutes. And then it says specific situation variances. Variances may be issued for the reconstruction, rehabilitation, or restoration of structures listed on the National Register of Historic Places or the State Inventory of Historic Places without regard to the procedures set forth in the remainder of this section. And provided that the proposed reconstruction, rehabilitation, or restoration will not result in the structure losing its historical character. Pre-existing small lot location. Variances may be issued by a community for new construction, and substantial improvements shall be erected on a lot of 1/2 acre or less in size, contiguous to and surrounded by lots with existing structures constructed below the base flood elevation in accordance with section 753A through 753D of this ordinance. Functionally dependent uses. Variances may be issued for new construction and substantial improvements and other development necessary for the conduct of functionally dependent use of the structure, and other development is protected by methods that minimize flood damage, create no additional threat to public safety, and meet the requirements of section 753A through 753D of this ordinance. These are all the appeal procedures. Floodway prohibition. Variances shall not be issued within any designated floodway if any increase in flood levels during the base flood discharge results. And then it talks about considerations for granting the variances. In passing on such applications, the Inland Wetlands Commission shall consider all technical evaluations, all relevant factors, all standards specified in other sections of this ordinance, and 1, the danger that the materials may be swept into the other lands to injure others, the danger of life and property due to flooding or erosion damage, the susceptibility of the proposed facility and its contents to flood damage, and such effect that such damage on the individual owner, the importance of services provided by the proposed individual owner, the necessity of the facility to waterfront location in the case of functionally dependent facility, the availability of alternative locations not subject to flooding, erosion, and damage for the proposed use, the compatibility of the proposed use with existing anticipated development, the relationship of the proposed use to a comprehensive plan and floodplain management program for that area, the safety and access of the property at times of flood for ordinary emergency services, expected heights, velocity, duration, rate of rise, and sediment transport of floodwaters, and the effect of wave action if applicable, and the cost of providing governmental services during and after flood conditions, including maintenance and repair of public utilities, facilities such as sewer, gas, electrical systems, and bridges. And it says, upon consideration of the factors listed above and the purposes of the ordinance, the Inland Wetlands Commission shall attach such conditions to the granting of variances as it deems necessary to further the purpose of this ordinance. And then it talks about conditions of variances. And then it has a potential for, yeah. So I guess in trying to answer your question, Diane, it's not really clear exactly how, at this time, how this will evolve. It's a possibility that you might not see anything
Right.
that comes through. I'll tell you one thing though, when I'm redoing the regulations, the inland wetlands regulations, whenever I come to an area that involves floodplain, a lot of the requirements that are in this ordinance are going to get captured into the regulations to some extent. So it's not going to be totally foreign like it is right now. some of those requirements for building in the 100-year floodplain will be a disincentive to people to build in the 100-year floodplains, because it's going to cost them a lot more money to, to demonstrate that they're not going to cause the problems that they think they might be causing. Am I making any sense to you, Diane? at
Well,
all?
I mean, that helps me. It's Commissioner Chapin. That helps me to some extent. I mean, I'm not somebody who likes to agree to things that aren't clear. So
Hmm.
I'm still on. And my second question would be if, I mean, I believe I'm going to get outvoted anyway, but if the commission decides that this isn't their place for this, where does this go? Who bears the responsibility? Because to me, reading these conditions and everything that's being outlined here, it's above my pay grade, which is 0, by the way, but you know what I mean?
Okay.
So I'm not in favor of this, but if the commission were to decide that this isn't something that we should be taking on, what happens then?
Okay, so the way I've seen the alternatives is it could go 2 different ways. Planning and Zoning Commission, which is an elected entity and subject to public influence, or the Board of Selectmen, which is also an elected position subject to public influence. So the Inland Wetlands Commission is appointed for periods of time, usually 5 years. So it's going to be less subject to political interference. It still can be subject to it, but it'll be less subject to.
Okay, well, that's the only thing that you've said so far that I actually like. So, okay, those are my questions.
Commissioner Obert, I see you have your hand raised.
The way it sounded to me, it's really kind of an extension of what you've already been doing here. If somebody comes in and they want to build a house and it's close to the wetlands and they say, can I do this? Can I do that? We say, can you try this? Can you try that? So apparently there's another set of regulations or guides. And if, for example, I was coming in tonight and saying, I want to build a house right down here next to the French River. And now my landscape architect knows that he's got to provide the information. And we just closed the loophole to say, yes, provide the information as part of the inland wetlands application. I think. And
So you're saying the burden is going on to the engineer, to the professional who's
Right.
providing this, because the way I'm hearing it from Marla is we're supposed to be versed in all this legalese that has been put forth in this ordinance.
yeah, and I didn't hear it that heavily. What I heard is that somebody in the town needs to be able to look over the shoulder of any development that's going into these areas and maybe double check those that have been in there for a while and make sure that they're not vulnerable.
Well, that
Well-
raises, Commissioner Morano, that raises an interesting question. Supposing an application comes before our commission and we approve it, and then there ends up being a flood and it affects the house. I would be a little concerned
Or
that
kills the people downstream
something,
because the debris
I
runs
would
away.
concern about our liability.
Good point. I don't
That was
think
one of
I
my
would
concerns as
approve an
well, Fran.
application that I thought was likely to fail. I haven't yet. I don't think you have either. None of
Well,
us.
you know,
really have.
if somebody didn't have insurance, they would try and go after somebody, and that I wouldn't want to
Well,
be.
that's- Insurance is between them and their lender.
Them and
Yeah,
the
but
you
insurance
don't have a
company.
loan.
If I could come in and pay cash and build a house down next to the French River, then I don't have a mortgage, but I still have to get a application. And the application might say, okay, make sure that your plans for your house include that you're taking consideration for a 100-year flood. Why? Because you're in the 100-year floodplain. When we got these maps available to us last month, I looked at them and I was very underwhelmed. So I like the idea of getting upgrades to the maps. Makes it easy for the residents of the town. Yeah, that's better than what I saw. It was all black and white when I looked at it last month.
Like color? See that one?
This is good. I like this, what I'm seeing on the screen now.
Yeah,
That
this
makes
is
sense.
this is the material that Marla sent over. This is the
And I-
proposed, or the links that you recommended how we access. So I pulled it up and I thought you'd like to take a
Oh.
look at it. So this is the French River, and this is the dam above town. And these are the demarcated areas. There's X, which is outside of the 100-year floodplain. There's a zone AE, which are sprinkled amongst here. Here it is, zone AE, which is that inside that border, the blue area. So it goes down through, it shows the river. The blue area is the 100-year floodplain. Interestingly, according to this proposed map, or the existing, this is the draft, I guess. The looks like 3 rows is outside of it. It's in a elevated area, and it goes down to basically follows the river on the sides of it. What else is there here? This is
So George, the X
cool.
was a cross section. So what FEMA does is they did actual survey work. They did cross sections across the river's floodplain, and figured out flood heights. So there's actually a 2-volume flood study that accompanies all the maps for the Quinnebog River and French River.
Right. French River.
And so the crosshash red and blue is the floodway. The blue area is the 100-year floodplain. And the brown area is it has not quite the 500-year, but it has a chance of occurring twice.
Is it X shaded is the item they have there? X shaded. I think they've got a scale on the side. Here it is.
You got to scroll down to the bottom, and
Yeah.
it tells you what all those things are.
Here's the
So
X
the
shaded. Let's
brown-
talk about it here. Here you go.
The brown has a 2% annual chance of flood, where the blue.
Zone X. It's 500-year plain.
Mm-hmm. So that's what, and that the flood ordinance does not regulate those. It only regulates the blue areas and the stripy areas. That's the floodway.
So here's your legend. So the interesting thing here is reduced flood risk due to levee. See notes and future conditions. So levee.
You don't have those in Thompson.
That's Thompson.
No, you don't have them. That's a standard for all of them. You won't
Right.
find
You've
that
got
on
brown.
those.
What's this brown line here?
You've got brown, which is down there. That's the chance of.
It's
if you go
overlapping.
back-
See the brown stripe.
That's the floodway. That's the
Okay.
floodway. The blue
Here's your
and
brown. Here's your brown.
yeah,
Find it. Move down. So where's brown?
brown is
Zone X.
2% chance of flood hazard, 1% chance of flood hazard with average depth of less than 1 foot or drainage area of less than 1 square mile. That's what the brown is.
Right. So anything in this that's not A would be X or X shaded, or D, or in this case, they give you some breakdowns.
So anybody coming in to do new development or get a building permit, the building office puts through all building permits through the wetlands office for clearance to make sure they don't need any wetlands approvals or permits. And as a consequence, there is some cross checking between the offices. And so you are correct, Charlie, that somebody wants to do something in the upland review area could be in the 100-year floodplain, but not all 100-year floodplains contain wetlands, and not all wetlands have 100-year floodplains. So there are going to be times when somebody will be in the 100-year floodplain, but not be coming to the commission because they're not within 100 feet of a wetland or watercourse because a floodplain is so big. Like
Those times will be minuscule compared to the volume of the town.
Yeah.
Maybe one in the next 100 years.
correct.
Wow.
There's a lot more wetlands in towns that don't have floodplains than there is floodplains that have wetlands.
Right. It looks like it's principally on the French River. Perhaps if you look at the, I could pull up the other panels, but it's just be tedious. But it seems like the numbers are so small. I mean, if you've only have 4 properties currently that require flood insurance, then that gives you some indication. And if every single one of them had them, there would be what, 70 some odd properties, right? 74 or something like that. We'll pull over. Here it
I
is.
got the impression that, because
140.
Commissioner Chapin.
Good.
Sorry, it's
Commissioner
Commissioner Chapin. I got the impression that Diane thought that those numbers were perhaps not correct.
For purchase, yeah,
The
for purchase,
four.
yeah.
But even at that, it's a logical fit, to me anyway, it's a logical fit. It's something to do with wetlands. We have more people who have trained more hours on issues regarding that than any other agency in town. And I do think that we would provide the best service for the taxpayers in the town. I know I'm volunteering more work for Marla, but I'm always willing to pay her for her time. So.
Or her successor, yeah.
Or our successor. And it just seems such a small number of applications that would come in that might need us, might need someone with this background and expertise to step in. And what Marla's been doing so far is very good because she's codifying everything to make it easier for us and the people in the town. So.
Yes, and
If
Commissioner
we have
Chapin,
to
I,
make
Sorry, one at a time. I'm sorry, which, is that Commissioner Chapin?
yes, I was just saying, I have no issue with Marla or her expertise. But we have an unknown coming in the next year. And I just don't know that we're going to get the level of guidance that we need. And I don't think there's enough authority in this commission. We're pretty much powerless, as been, played out over and over again. I mean, we can issue violations, but at the end of the day, I don't know. I'm still, I know I'm going to get outvoted and I don't care about that, but I'm just speaking my piece. I think, the liability concerns that Fran, if this were crystal clear, I might have an easier time deciding on it. If everything had already been updated and it was outlined exactly what we needed to do and what we were responsible for and what's going to happen if something fails and we've approved it and there's loss of life, et cetera, then I might have a more of a warm fuzzy about this. It's not the added role of reviewing these things as a course of business. I don't have any issue with that.
I think the
It just, to
planning
me,
and
this is-
zoning would be a more appropriate.
Oh, you bring up
Yeah.
a good point, Commissioner Morano. I mean, they're all experts in engineering and what credentialed engineers and civil engineers, and they've got
And they're
extensive planning
elected, they're not
experience.
volunteers.
Well, in most towns, the Inland Wetlands Commission is elected. Look at Putnam. They're elected positions. It just happens to be not appointed in this town. In most municipalities, it's an elected position.
I might beg to differ with you on that.
Well, I'm looking at Putnam, our largest neighbor.
Well, Woodstock is not. Woodstock is appointed.
Well,
I'm on the Woodstock Commission, and I most of the commissions, there were very few that were planning and zoning commissions were wetlands agencies. A lot of them were split between conservation commissions and then the wetlands commissions, and conservation commissions are not elected. So a large number of the inland wetlands agencies are appointed.
For point of clarification, Charlie, these bullet points that Marla read to us 15 minutes ago, essentially are the responsibilities that FEMA is suggesting that the town have somebody provide.
right.
So the commission would not be the basic decision maker. It would be only the appeal agency. The building inspector is the one who says no. And then if somebody doesn't like what the building inspector, and the building inspector is going to base it on the information that he gets. And if he says no and the person doesn't like it, and then it comes back to the commission says, okay, what's the evidence that we have? You're basically an adjudicator. You're not going out and making appraisals of saying, oh, well, yes, this is that and this is that. No, you are taking whatever evidence is brought before you. And if there's inadequate evidence or incomplete evidence, then you just deny the variance.
And another dimension that perhaps isn't obvious to everyone is that the National Flood Insurance Program won't they won't sell you flood insurance unless, and if you're in a special flood hazard area, they may very well insist upon mitigants. And there's numerous different mitigants based on, if you're on a beach, they'll say you've got to elevate the structure so many feet above the high tide mark. Or in the case of New Orleans, which I was very much involved with, many large flood losses and subsequent reconstructions, they actually raised buildings 10 feet off the ground. on stilts or on pads, raised pads. So it's sort of like, and if you have a lender that wants to lend to a property and they said, look, you're in a 100-year floodplain and you must have flood insurance. Now the building, the structure has to meet that criteria. Either the contractor that's putting it together will make sure the mitigants are in place, whether it means diversion, berms, whatever, levees and those types of things, or they have a variety of breakaway walls, all sorts of elements that are part of the structure or can be part of the structure to make it more resistant to flood, to mitigate it. Because without the flood insurance, that a lot of these deals, the new construction is not going to take place because there won't be any lending, and those that are able to do it are going to be using their own funds. And as far as the question of guidance, it seems to me that we've got quite a lot of, the enumerate on 7.5.1, the considerations for granting any and all variances. And as Marla points out, these are exceptions. In other words, it's already gone through the planning and zoning, presumably, right? And now they're coming for an exception.
No, they've gone through the building official.
Okay,
And the building official says no, and they
Right.
don't like it.
All right, so you have the building official first, and then we can bring in the conditions. It stipulates the conditions for variances on page 19, and then it goes on to penalties. You've got some authority here. You've got some $250 per day. So now you've got some teeth.
Nope, that doesn't say that the Wetlands Commission is responsible for enforcement. It doesn't say that.
So who is?
It would be the town. And
Right.
it would, so it's not clear.
Well, I guess we could take a aggressive position, say we're asserting it, and you prove us otherwise, okay? And let the town wear it, if that's where you want to go.
Mhm.
I mean, if you're going to sit back and be passive, and that's a choice. That's a choice. Or you can say it doesn't say we can't, so we're going to do it, and you prove otherwise. And
Well,
maybe that's the approach we need to take.
So Marla, it's Commissioner Chapin. Can I ask again? So if the building inspector says no, and it comes to wetlands for a variance, and we,
Say no.
for some insane reason, allow the variance does that just automatically overrule the building inspector? I mean, or does it go back to them with conditions? What happens? Because my plan would be to say, if role is going to be put on the wetlands, if they say no, I say no. I mean, there's got to be reasons given to begin with, that the no was whatever, but so
Right.
what would happen if it comes to wetlands and wetlands says, yes, well, we think if you do X, Y, and Z, that should be granted. What happens next?
I would assume that in writing goes to the building inspector, and the building inspector then has to issue the building permit. However, why would you do that? I mean, why would if the building inspector says no, he's saying no for a reason.
I agree
Right.
with you. I agree
And-
with you. I
and
mean,
I would-
I'm telling you, I would be an automatic no vote,
Right,
based
right.
on, right? So in
Right,
that
so-
scenario, I would be okay with this.
So when you look at the factors for consideration, all you have to do is find one of those factors as being unacceptable and saying no. Because any one of those, and George, you had the factors up, I think they're farther down after the conditions for variances.
Hold on, let
No,
me
it's
pull it.
five,
Above it.
it's 5.1, it's above it. Those, all you have to do is find one of those as being
Right.
unacceptable, and you've said no. Doesn't matter. Taking that into consideration, and a no on any one of those should be adequate for the appeal to fail.
I see.
This is not like the zoning board of appeals. You're not looking for a hardship.
Right.
You're looking for something a little different.
Okay,
think- I think-
I'm all right based on the fact that it's, it's unlikely that we're going to approve anything that has already been denied.
Right. Commissioner Obert, I hear you. I see you have a question.
I believe that the last confusion that I have, if somebody was to file for a variance, a form or an application of some sort would come into the wetlands office, and it would say, this can I get a variance for this? And then we go look at the list and say, well, the building inspector said no based on this. That solves it. It's
Yeah.
essentially, to my thinking, it's much the same as the procedures when somebody files an application.
Sure.
They still have to come in, they have to show that they've looked at the property, that they understand not only the basics for building their house, but they can't build their house in a way that kills all the frogs and salamanders that just happen to be on the corner of the lot. We can do that, and we do that. And so if somebody came in and said, hey, I want to do this, and the building inspector said no, well, we've got the list right there. I think what this does, maybe we need to think about it for another month if we have the time, but I think what
don't have-
this does,
You
okay,
don't have time.
then I think what this does is it clarifies who to ask. And I believe that the Wetlands Commission, with our resources, even if and when we need to find a new wetlands agent, that's part of the job description. They need to be able to do these things. So it's
And
not
then
a big surprise.
Then maybe the town can support more funding for the Wetlands Office,
There you
which it
go.
has declined to do at this time.
Justifies it.
Right, and that's part of my concern as well. That's already been approached and denied, which does not serve the best interest of the town. So, but I'm okay with this based on, rather than having go to a political source for overriding,
Right.
it would come to the Inland Wetlands Commission.
Great. Yeah,
Can I make
Commissioner
a
Obert,
motion? I make a motion that we proceed with this, and if it has to go to town meeting or however it goes into the ordinance, that we proceed.
okay, Commissioner Obert, you made is that a motion or just a recommendation?
That's a motion
Motion, do we have a second?
What exactly is the motion?
to approve this, which has been outlined by Marla for the Inland Wetlands Commission.
Is that making us responsible for these decisions?
Yes, that, correct.
You're
Fran.
responsible for your decision.
Ultimately, it would say that if somebody comes in for a variance in the 100-year floodplain, Inland Wetlands has to have an opportunity to weigh in on that. And I believe.
No,
that
I don't
we-
think it does it?
No,
It's that
no,
only
no,
if the.
It's
Go ahead,
only if it
sorry,
goes,
Marla.
that's okay. It's
sorry.
only if it goes before the building inspector and the building inspector says no.
Yes,
Then they come.
that's when the variance comes in.
Right.
That's all we need to worry about is a variance, isn't it?
Correct. Once,
So
and the
that's-
variance occurs when the building inspector says, no, you can't do
Correct.
this.
Correct.
And I think the motion, if I may suggest, that the motion should be that the commission approves the change of the Conservation Commission to the Inland Wetlands Commission as the agency of appeal of
Right.
the
Simplifies
flood
it. Yeah.
prevention,
Please,
damage, flood damage
Second.
prevention ordinance.
So basically that the the Inland Wetland Commission will be responsible.
Correct. That's exactly right.
So Commissioner
That's my
Morano, do I
motion.
take that as a second?
Sure.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to accept this charge, responsibility as the appeal as outlined and discussed.
Change the language to identify the Wetlands Commission instead of the Conservation.
Right, as enumerated by Marla in her recommended change. And so we could, how would you like to, we could have a voice vote or we could call it a roll call. Let's start with a voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Opposed.
I have one opposition. All right. So we've got 4 commissioners, 3 yeses, 3 ayes, and 1 no. So the motion carries as detailed by Marla, which switches it to the Inland Wetlands Commission to, I'm sorry, the Inland Wetlands Commission to weigh in on these variances once it's gone past the building inspector. All right, is that? All right, hearing no other issues, let me just move this off my screen. We're on slide 55.
Go to 59.
59, thank you. 59, next one. Citizens' comments on agenda items. Valerie, Ms. Clark, do you have any comments?
I got called out. I do not have any comments at this time. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. Well, you were the only citizen I could see in the room, so I just didn't want you to be neglected. All right, no comments by citizens. Moving on to reports. We have budget and expenditures.
Negative. We pretty much use most of our budget, but we don't have a report. Is that my part or is that your part, Marla?
I was unable to get a year-end report from the finance office, so Diane could not report on what the final balances were, so you're gonna have to wait till next month.
Do you have a feeling that we're within parameters, or we're deficit, or just breaking even, or any
We
feeling for that?
probably had a little bit of a surplus.
Okay,
I thought I was gonna be over budget in my hours by about, I think my calculation was somewhere around 10 hours over budget, but we had extra money in the recording secretary. We always have a little extra money there for potential special meetings. And so I didn't use up all the other items. We still had funds available for, transportation and
got it. Good.
yeah,
Okay.
so we didn't go over budget. I know
Great.
that.
Thank you. All right, moving on then to the next item, wetlands agent report.
Okay, I'm gonna try screen sharing again.
Great.
Can I do that?
Yes, let me just release mine. I'll release it.
I think you absolutely should, Marla. I mean, no time like the present.
All right, so did you release yours?
Yep, you're all set. Go for
All
it.
right, so now what do I do is I press share screen and then it says, I have a choice, Zoom meeting on web or post attendee Zoom. I have to click one.
You should be able to pick it off when I do it, you should be able to just pick one of the windows. What you have open is what you want to go to. You
Okay.
should open the device. If you want to open your document on your
It's open.
desktop, now
Do you see-
now go to screen share and see, you should be able to see it and click it, like screen 1, screen 2, the window.
Okay. It's okay, I got share. It says cancel. It says site will be able to see the contents from your screen. And it
Well, hit it.
says
ahead.
Chrome tab, window. Oh, click window. Okay,
Just
I
click
got
it.
it.
Yeah, find the window it's sitting in and click it.
All right, and then share that.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay, there it is. Okay, hey, congratulations. You're there. You're
So-
in.
Now I can finally share my wetlands agents reports, which you haven't seen. Because these are generated usually, near the end of the day before
Sure.
the meeting.
Maybe good
So-
to take on the bottom, your bottom right-hand corner, take 100, you're at 100%, push it up to like 150. Just push up the size so we can help read along with you.
Okay,
Keep going,
How's that?
keep going, keep going. There you go, there you go, good. I can see it
All right.
now.
so I continue to work on drafting the inland wetlands regulation revisions as time allows. I've been unable to find the map that's referenced in section 3 of the regulations. After searching the wetlands office, the town clerk's office, and the storage room on the ground floor. The language in section 3 of the regulations will need to be revised to remove a reference to any map except wetlands delineations by a qualified soil scientist identified on plans approved by the Inland Wetlands Commission or its predecessor, the Conservation Commission. As much time was spent on drafting and reviewing revisions to the flood damage prevention ordinance, no progress was made on the pre-1990 file destruction. Regarding 23 Lapierre Road, this is a follow-up from last month. As reported last month, Carl Kuhn of HJK Renovations, he was the builder of the unauthorized garage at 23 Lapierre Road. He had stopped by the office on June 20th and was provided the wetlands agent approval application form and a copy of record drawing 1824 that shows the location of the delineated wetlands. He plans to submit the application after the owner signs the form. The owner, by the way, is out of state, and he said that the owner comes back to state every couple of weeks. To date, no application has been received and further correspondence is indicated. I want to find out why Mr. Kuhn hasn't been able to get that application submitted.
Do you require original wet signatures or do you take digital signatures?
I haven't taken digital signatures, but I have taken photocopied, scanned
Okay.
ones.
Scanned, all
Yeah.
right, just wanted.
If you
good,
want to say
thanks.
that's digital, then yes.
Yeah,
Some of the engineering plans have come in with stamps and they're signed and sealed, but they are digital and they basically have taken and placed a scan of their signature and put
Right.
it on the document.
right. All right, I'm just curious because I do tons of stuff every day, and within Adobe, there's a signature block, you can paste it in, it becomes part of the document. So I can't sign it because I wasn't in state is usually kind of,
Yep.
I'm just curious how that works. All right, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
All right, well, at the request of Public Works Director Joe, I always pronounce his name wrong, Tacky. I inspected Jezersky Lane. This was on Monday, last Monday, the 3rd of July, at the cross culvert on Jezersky Lane where the outfall is to Little Pond to get an assessment of the work needed to repair bank erosion that is undermining the pavement to Jezersky Lane. Joe, and I'm going to see if I can change my screen. Can you see that?
Not yet. You've got to find, what are you going to change it to?
Oh, I thought I did. So I
You've
have
got
to
open
stop.
up the window. You have to open up the window. Just open up another window.
I have it open.
Sharing. Okay, stop sharing the one you're in. At the top, you see a little red line. It says stop sharing on the right.
It says on the bottom, stop
Oh,
sharing. Okay.
Okay. Now go and find the new one you want to share.
Okay.
Select that.
Yeah. But it's not showing up as to start sharing. I opened it up. So I got to come back here and share screen.
Or just drag it into that
And then I have
window.
to hit window again. And then I have to say this one.
Just go back
and
to where you
share
were.
that one. Can you see that now?
Yes, we can. Yes.
There you go.
Okay. So this is a photograph taken of the road, Jezersky Lane. It's a town road. And this is as you see, can you see my cursor?
Yes, we can.
The head wall?
Yes.
Okay, so there's this erosion right at the head wall. This is the inlet end where the beavers like to want to block it. So when you look over in the next picture over, you can see they've put up a little bit of a fencing in front of the cross culvert. But the erosion is coming down off the road and it's just washing it out. And he's concerned that it's undermining the pavement. You can see the pavement is starting to break apart. So he wanted to come up with some ideas of perhaps putting in concrete block wall here to raise this up and then put riprap in front of it to try to stabilize this, to stop this area from being damaged. And so I'm going to be meeting with him in the near future to try to talk about what process would he have to do. I think this could be covered. He says he doesn't want to go in the water. He wants to build the blocks along the side somehow. And I don't quite understand what he wants to do and how far he wants to do. But this might be able to come to the commission as a non-regulated use, conservation of soil and water. So he doesn't have to go through a permit process, but he probably needs some drawings and sketches to show you, because technically he would be potentially affecting the area. It's in the upland review area. That's what he says. So, but I can't sign off on uses permitted as of right. And I don't think you should have to come through a wetlands agent approval for this. I think you should just go through as a use, non-regulated use. But I'm going to go back to my thing now. Okay. All right. So now you said I share screen,
Yeah.
and then I go window. And then I click back to my report and I share. Oh, I think
Another way of doing it is take that out of the document and dragging it into that screen. That's what I was doing earlier. But
okay.
Let's stick to what you've got. It's working.
All right. Well, at least it's working. So here are all the building permits that I reviewed. Remember, I was telling you there's a communication between us. There's a lot of work this past month. But when you take a look at it, there are some single family homes. Most of those have come through the Wetlands Commission. For approvals, for wetlands agent approvals. A couple of them, not so, but a lot of it is swimming pools. Everybody wants a swimming pool this year, or it's sheds, or it's
Must be that climate change thing, huh?
Yeah, well, I think COVID got everybody thinking about it. Anyways, under miscellaneous, I have a copy of, for each one of you, of the publication, what's legally required by Mike Siska. It's in my office. Just contact me to make arrangements to pick it up. It's a little too heavy. I don't want to send it in the mail. Yeah. And so I haven't gotten notification that that bill was paid. It's put through a credit card that the finance office has, and that costs the town $159 for the copies. But I think you guys are well worth it. And I think you should have that. I think it's of value, and this would be your personal copy, part of what your payment for being a volunteer. And that's it. That's what I have to share with you.
Any questions for our inland wetlands agent on her report?
I have one question. You'd be surprised. Marla, That culvert with the beaver dam, isn't that right up where that woman wants to build a house?
No, that's at the
Oh,
other end. See, that's the
Oh,
north
okay.
end of Little Pond. She wanted to build, Cheryl Popiak wants to be at the south end,
Okay,
which is where the inlet is. That's where water comes into the pond. Jezersky Lane is where water goes out of the pond.
thank you.
Okay. Are we already there?
You're
There was no
61,
Mylars, there were no correspondence.
correct?
Yeah, correspondence, no Mylars. So we're down to the comments by commissioners. Commissioners, comments? Commissioner Chapin? Any?
I'm all commented out. Thank you.
No, thank you. Commissioner Morano?
That,
All set. Commissioner Obert?
Well, I think that we have reached a couple of milestones, things that we've been pushing along for years are finally moving, and it's good to see it. Going to go to this link and see if those maps that you shared tonight of the floodplain, a lot better than the ones that I saw last month when I looked on the site.
Aren't they cool? I was messing with them, and there's a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
it was,
It's just a
what I
snippet.
saw the other time I looked was just like black and white and very boring.
I know it, but you've got to be careful. It's almost like you've got to get the index and find out what panel you're in. But this is the most colorful one. And
This goes on the map, we're in good shape.
but Marla, what I did was I just dragged this window into my browser into my window, and it shows up, and I can just drag it out, right? So, but I've got multiple screen monitors, so
Yeah.
I'll see if I've got some more monitors around here if you want. So we can get your home set up. Okay, so I do have a couple of comments. So thank you very much for your informed analysis and comments, commissioners. I think that dialogue's good. Considering the downside of every decision is important, and we can agree to disagree on things. So I think that's really great. And glad to see it's only 8:42, which is a shorter version of ourselves here. And with that being said, it's summer, and hope everyone's going to have a good vacation period. And other than that, I have nothing else. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion to adjourn, seconded. Hearing no opposition. The meeting is adjourned at 8:43 p.m. on July 11th, 2023. Thank you very much. And it's my job to hit the off button too here. So let me find the off button here, because Amy charged me with that. Recording. Okay, I'm going to stop recording now.
All right. Thanks, George.